I keep screwing up.
We're with Joe Epke of the IU Southeast men's tennis team. How are you doing today, sir?
I'm good. How about you?
Pretty good. Could we start off with you just tell me a little bit about your background and about yourself?
Yeah, no problem. I was born in Evansville, Indiana, and had two brothers real close in age. Grew up playing tennis. Our dad was our coach, and when I got to 8th grade, we moved to Greenwood, and I went to Center Grove High School all 4 years there, and then went to Southern Indiana to play college tennis. And just been coaching ever since. I met my wife in college at USI, and we got married. We've been married for about 10 years, have 3 kids, 2 boys and a girl, and now got this job here at IUS about 5 years ago, and I'm just sticking with what I'm doing, love coaching, and want to keep doing that for as long as possible.
How did you get hired at IU Southeast, or how did that come about?
I actually started. I was an assistant coach. Just got hired as the assistant coach at Bellarmine, and was only coaching there for about 3 weeks when the position opened up. And I knew that I wanted to be a head coach, so I thought I would give it a shot and apply for it. And I knew some of the players that were on the team just from giving lessons in the past, and so I had a couple connections there, so was able to get an interview, and that all went pretty well, and here I am now.
Did you ever have any other places you were interested in or thought about coaching?
There's been times where I've considered, do I go coach maybe in a different division, like Division 2 or Division 1? Do I go to a different school, look for a different situation, things like that? So there's been times I've thought about it, but I'm happy where I'm at, so I'm going to stay here.
And then what exactly, could I talk about your tennis and what you do with the team and what all that entails? Could you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, when it comes, the biggest thing with college coaching, I mean, it starts with being able to recruit. You have to have good players in order to create a good program. So I've spent a lot of time trying to recruit and find the right players for for our team and for our program. And so we'll have a lot of time spent recruiting. Then obviously there's the on-court aspect of it, just making sure each player's getting what they need on the court and off the court. Academically, of course, is the most important thing for our student athletes, so we always want to make sure we maintain at least a 3.0 team GPA and make sure we set those standards and keep them as high as we can, because we always want to do better and better as a team in the classroom. And then there's tons of little aspects, whether it's the scheduling for matches, organizing our travel arrangements, controlling our team budget. There's a lot of little things that go into it outside of just the actual on-court stuff that makes it keeps it interesting on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah. Now, is it hard to juggle? I know you're the boys and the girls coach. Is it hard to juggle both of the teams, or how does that work for you?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, yeah, it is. It's tough to go from coaching a men's practice into coaching a women's practice. It's just kind of totally different personalities that you're dealing with, and how I approach the coaching is definitely a little bit different and can be challenging on a day-to-day basis. The first couple of years, it definitely was a learning experience. I feel like I'm starting to get a little better grasp on how to handle it on a day-to-day basis, and it can be a challenge, but I enjoy it because it keeps my job interesting.
And then you said something about the academics part of it. If there were students that were struggling, say you have student athletes that are struggling academic-wise, what are some of the things that IUS offers for these students that are struggling?
Well, we do a good job of our volleyball coach is also our academic coordinator, so there's a lot of opportunities for players or athletes if they're struggling in classes that there's a lot of help around them. They can tell their coach, which we can relay that information to our academic coordinator. There's free tutoring. There's a lot of areas that they can get help, let alone tutoring from their peers, other players on the team that have either taken similar classes or been through certain situations. There's a lot of resources that are available if players are just willing to take advantage of them.
And then I also see that along with coaching the boys and girls team, you're also involved, you have a night job. Could you explain a little bit about what you do on campus at night?
Yeah, I basically have dual roles. I'm the head men's and women's tennis coach, but I'm also the operations coordinator here in the activities building. And basically what that entails is just me I have a couple different things I'm in charge of. For example, making sure every one of our student athletes across our 7 sports have all completed the NAIA drug testing education courses online. That's one aspect. I try to help out with basically anything the athletic department needs, whether that's helping increase attendance at basketball games or other sporting events, and just anything I can do to help them out and make it a little bit easier on our athletic department.
Now, I see that you work till 10 o'clock throughout the week, Monday through Thursday. Is that hard on your family, or could you talk about that a little bit and some of the struggles with that or some of the benefits?
Yeah, it can be a struggle. Obviously, my wife's a teacher, and so when she gets home around 3:30, 4 o'clock every day, then I come into work and I'm here till 10 or sometimes even a little bit later. And so it can make it hard to spend enough time together with my wife, which is obviously really important to me. But from a time standpoint, it can be challenging, but we just make the most of the opportunities we get to spend time together, and it all usually works out pretty well. But staying late can be definitely challenging. With that said, I get to talk to students and be around a job that I love. So it works out great.
And with tennis being year-round sport, you guys do a lot of the stuff outside in the fall, but could you talk a little bit about in the winter when the weather kind of changes and you got to take down the nets, the wind screens and stuff like that? What do you guys do for winter stuff for the guys and girls team? And
yeah, our winter is really challenging just because weather around here is super unpredictable. For example, we practiced outside when it's very warm outside in the middle of February, and so you get random days where you want to try to be outside so that you have more courts, because our indoor court situation, we use Southern Indiana Tennis Center, and they have 3 indoor courts, and trying to fit 2 teams on just 3 indoor courts is extremely challenging just due to the volume of players we have. So we do the best we can. We basically go indoors to the Southern Indiana Tennis Center towards the end of October, beginning November, and stay in there until usually March 1st, and that's usually our date when we start trying to go outside, which every year is different depending on what the weather does, and around this time of year when it starts to become spring.
And with the guys and girls team, could you talk about how many players on each team and how it's been kind of a struggle? I know this year some of the girls team, some of them had to kind of quit throughout the season just with struggling, trying to juggle classes, sports, and academics and stuff. Could you talk about like how many players are on each team and how they kind of the best way that they should budget their time?
Yeah, we have typically I don't like our roster sizes to be about 8 to 10 players is what I like for both teams, and like you said, with the women, we started out this year with 11, and I think we're down to 8. We had some girls quit due to just whether it's their overwhelming class schedule, whether they have issues outside they want to work, things like that. There's things that can lead to that happening here in our situation, but it usually works out pretty well to have around 8 players on the team. An even number always helps too, just due to how practices are run. Makes things a little bit easier, but it's kind of nice when you only have 8, because then I feel like you can invest your time a little bit more into each player instead of trying to spread yourself a little too thin with a whole bunch of players on each team.
I'm sure that helps travel situations as well too, so we don't have to get as many vehicles and buses and expenses on some of that stuff.
That's a big thing, because our budgets are tight as it is. So when you throw more players on the team, that's more gear you have to buy, that's another van you have to rent when you travel and things like that. So it definitely makes it easier having a little bit smaller teams.
Talking about the budget a little bit, with you guys having a little bit of a smaller budget than some of the schools around us, what are some of the struggles, kind of just the sports side of it, when you guys are playing other teams that got a little bit more money, and how they can recruit better players? They've got more of a budget, more facility, better equipment. How do you kind of budget and compete against that?
Yeah, it's very difficult to do, because in the NAIA for tennis, you're allowed 5 full scholarships. So the budget, first and foremost, when it comes to just being able to recruit and scholarship money, we're already kind of starting behind a little bit, because we are not fully funded and we're not able to give full scholarships to international players and players like too far out of our region. So we just have to be really good at what we do in this area and find the best players we can in our region, and then make the most of that as far as the actual roster is concerned. And then with the budget, of course, my goal is to always make it basically just the best possible student athlete experience each player can get. And in my head, I have all these ideas that I want to do or want to try, but they can be shut down pretty quick if we don't have the money to do it. So things like when we go play away matches, going a day ahead of time and staying in a hotel, those are all things that I would like to add to our program, but due to lack of funds can be challenging and prevent me from doing certain things that I would probably like to do.
Talking about that, some of the struggles, not being able to do many things. Could you talk a little bit about some of the dislikes and benefits and likes of IUS? I'm sure there's some things you like, dislike. Could you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah. I mean, first of all, I absolutely love working here. It's basically my dream job. Of course, I wish I got paid a little bit more, but it's a great school to be at. I love the people I work for. We have a really, really good athletic director in Joe Glover and Denny Williams, and they do such a great job of making their coaches feel good about the situation they're in, and they do a good job of making it feel like a really close family type atmosphere, and that keeps me wanting to work hard for them because I have their support. So I really like being here. I love the tennis side of it. I like the administrative side of it. There really isn't a whole lot I dislike about it. We get great benefits. There's another very positive thing about my role here. But if I had to dislike anything, we go back to the budget, like things like that. I wish we had a little bit more available to do more things from a scholarship standpoint. But I mean, really, if there's any dislike, that's about it.
And talking about kind of going off dislikes and likes now, some of the likings. What have some of your favorite memories been? Could you talk about those and where they've been and how they've affected your life?
Yeah, it was crazy when I first got the job here. I think it was about 5 years ago. It was my very first season coaching. We were picked, I think, third or fourth in the conference. So my expectations weren't that high, especially since I inherited a team that weren't players I recruited or anything. But the team did a great job throughout the season, and even still during the year, it was like, okay, well, we'll see how we do in the conference tournament because we were trying to make it to nationals. That was our goal at the beginning of the year, and it turned out that we had lost to our main conference opponent, I think pretty handily, 7-2, I believe, and 2 weeks later played them in the conference tournament finals and were able to upset them and win 5-4 in dramatic fashion, and all the players rushing the court. And all of this being in the first year I was coaching, it was pretty exciting to see, and kind of made myself feel good about the situation that I was in. Like, wow, this is a place where we can win and do some great things and create great memories for players. So that kind of started everything off for me on a really positive note in my very first year. And we were actually able to do that not the following year, the year after that. So 2 years later, we basically did the exact same thing where we upset our main conference opponent in the finals and got to go to Atlanta to try to get into nationals against the top couple teams in the country. So there was a lot of positive wins early on in my first couple of years coaching that really will stick with me forever. And
then once the tennis season ends and stuff, going into the summer part of it, I know some of the players don't live around here and they'll go back home and stuff for the summer. How do you kind of stay intact with the players and make sure they're doing what they're supposed to get ready for the next season and be ready the first day of practice?
Yeah, that can be tough because when guys go home for the summer, you never really 100% know what they're doing, if they're practicing enough, if they're if they're taking summer class, things like that, making sure that they're going to be eligible, making sure they're going to come into that next season in shape and ready to play. So the best, I try to stay in contact with all of them, whether it's through text or phone call, whatever it is, and try to have them playing a handful of tournaments throughout the summer at least, and just keeping tabs on them basically to make sure that they're at least doing a handful of things to at least maintain where they're at and not lose ground.
Oh, that's. And then I see that you guys, I've saw some FCA flyers and stuff going around campus. I know you do FCA camps and stuff in the summer. Could you talk about what that does and how it keeps some of the students involved and kind of almost in a way recruits students to kind of come here, not even if it's just to play tennis, but just to go to school here? Could you talk about the FCA?
Yeah, it's a great organization to be a part of. First of all, we had the FCA leaders in the area, Donnie Rourke and Bob Shaw, had approached us about starting an FCA here on campus for our student athletes, and we had a pretty decent response. We had a decent turnout for a year, but it was tricky trying to find the right days and times to do it. So we did that for about a year or so, and then they approached me about my interest in starting a tennis camp here, and I was very willing to jump on board with that. And we've done 2 years of the camp. The first year we only had about 18 or so kids, and in the second year we were all the way up to around 50. So there was a lot of growth in just 2 years of it, and it's just a great way to expose our university to a group of players, both student athletes, Christians, just people to come in and be a part of something and something special. It's been a pretty fun experience. The kids come and stay for about 3 nights and 4 days is how long the camp is, and they come and they stay in the dorms, which gives them it's almost like a recruiting visit. They get to come
Feel what it's like on campus life.
Yeah, they do get to see the campus life and have a better feel for kind of what it's like to be on a college campus or be around a college coach or college tennis program.
Sounds like you guys are super busy throughout the year. Is there anything else you'd like to add, or did I forget to ask anything?
No, not really. I mean, that covered a lot of it. That was pretty good.
Is there a correct spelling to your name? I'll get that.
Yeah, I go by Joe, just Joe, and then Epkey is my last name, which can be a little bit confusing for some people, but it's spelled Epkey is my last name.
And then if there's any way I need to contact you after that, can I just get a phone number for that?
Yeah, my phone number is 502-939-9217.
All right. Thank you, Joe. I appreciate your time.
Thank you.